Hi everyone, it's September 8th and I've just come back from Santiago after talking to Gareth from Ireland. He's been walking the Camino Frances, arriving into town today, September 8th, 2020, which means he's been walking during the COVID epidemic. And it was interesting to talk to him to see how he felt the experience was walking through Spain during these days. And staying in albergues and having lunches and in bars and restaurants along the way. So I sat down and had a talk with him, and I wanted to show you the interview. Before I put it on, I want to just make sure you know that Gareth has also been posting a lot of photos of his walk from the forum, on the forum. There are several threads. I'll link to them below with photos from his walk along the way. The photos are actually not posted by Gareth. They're posted by Mick, which is Gareth's neighbor. So I think Gareth has been sending photos back home to Mick, and then Mick has been posting these photos up on the forum. So listen to the interview. He's a very nice guy, and have a look at the photos, and you get an idea of what it's like walking in Spain these days. Hi everyone, I'm here with Gareth. This is the second time we tried this because the sound didn't work the first time. Anyway, he has just walked the Camino Frances and he's in Santiago. It's September 8th, and it's great to have a chance to chat to someone that actually been walking these days, because you read stuff in the papers and you're not sure how things are out there. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
And how was it out there? How was walking in these virus times?
Yeah, well, this is my first Camino, so from that perspective, I don't really have anything to compare with. But for me, it was perfect. I mean, I certainly got what I wanted from it. In terms of practicalities, I think on the day I left Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, there was around 80 pilgrims left, which I understand is fairly small.
Yeah.
So, there were days where I didn't see anybody at all on the road, and then there were times, particularly at the start, the people that you kind of leave with. I mostly walked solo,
Yeah.
but then you'd usually see people kind of in the evening. But often, I mean, there was times where I was in an albergue, I was the only person.
Yeah.
Many albergues were closed. Even the ones that were opened were only at half capacity.
Yeah.
And you hear stories just from the albergue owners and people in cafes and things like that saying that it's pretty tough right now.
Yeah.
So, but for me personally, I mean it's perfect, and I probably got a Camino that most people won't from that perspective.
I think you got a Camino that people got like maybe 10, 15 years ago, when it wasn't so popular. Now, how was it? How did the virus enter into your day-to-day routine? Of course, there was masks being used, and did you feel safe in that way? Did you feel that people protecting you and the others?
Yes, yes, I did. So I think that if you're up on a mountain or really in the middle of nowhere, people didn't wear the masks generally. However, anywhere populated, people were very good. People were really cognizant of it. I think that any of the albergues you went into had the usual rules, and some with more and some with less. For example, some of them, they took temperatures. So disposable bed coverings in most of them, obviously hand sanitization. And people have been really good with the masks. You don't see people without masks here, you really don't. So unless you're sitting like we are now in a cafe, where you're going to have some food, people are really good. But then, I mean, the police are cracking down, so I've seen the police stop people that weren't masked up and that type of thing.
In Santiago right now, there's a new law that was in effect in the last few days, and you can't gather more than 10 people at a time.
Oh wow! Okay.
So people, I saw this thing in the paper yesterday. There was a restaurant in Santiago that got fined by the police because they had 12 people at a table. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's because in August and September the numbers have been kind of going up in Galicia and in the rest of Spain as well. Did you feel people were worried when you entered into town that you might be, carrying the virus and be?
No.
Were they afraid of you?
No, generally I think not. Occasionally, walking maybe through a village or something, you might see somebody slip a mask on as you pass by or cross over the street. But generally speaking, no. People were very happy to see pilgrims coming, and they were happy to see some business.
Yeah.
So no, and I think that maybe with the pilgrims themselves, I mean, I think everybody knew what they were signing up for, so everybody was okay.
Where did you start?
Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port.
Exactly.
How did you travel? Are you from the UK or?
I'm from Ireland.
From Ireland. So how did you travel to and how are you thinking of traveling back now?
Well, I'll catch a flight. I've already booked it for tomorrow. An early flight, 6 a.m. To Madrid, and then from Madrid on. Coming over was a little bit more challenging. So I started on the 4th of August, and actually was very difficult to get transit here. And the first flights started going into Biarritz on the 1st of August. So I was, on one of the first flights out. There's only 8 of us on the plane, which is very unusual.
Wow. Ryanair, is it?
Ryanair, yeah, to Biarritz and then from there across.
Yeah. How was the experience? Well, with 8 people on the plane, you could space out. Did you feel safe the whole experience going through the airport and all of that?
Yeah, I mean the airport. I travel a lot for work. I'm very used to travel.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience. Everything moved very smoothly and quickly.
Yeah.
I can't say that I particularly noticed any more stringent security measures required or anything like that. Bar the mask, and then on the flight itself, you're obligated to wear the mask as well. But I mean, that's fine, and it's a short flight anyway. Not a big deal. But personally, I felt safe. I should probably note that I had the coronavirus in February, so
Okay.
I've been through it. I feel like I probably have a good immunity at this stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it feels like, is this something that you like? Do you feel like you think you're going to come back and do the Camino again, or do you feel like you're done with it? You did it.
That's a really difficult question to answer. I've come across so many people who've done it multiple times. So for me, this is something I've always wanted to do, definitely. The difficult thing, I wanted to do it in one go. I didn't want to do it in stages, and that's quite difficult with work. So I'm in the process of changing jobs, so I had a window that I could take advantage of. So this was perfect timing. And if that hadn't happened, it would have been probably many years before I got to do this. So that's why I took the time even during the pandemic. In terms of doing it again, I don't really know. I certainly want to do Finisterre. I'm not going to do that now. I think I might come back and do that with my daughter. Maybe she's only young. She's 5, so maybe the next year or two that would be an easy walk for her.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I think really what I need to do is really consolidate and integrate what I've taken from this and really see where I'm at. Because I know I'm certainly a developed person from the person that started, but I think I really need some time to process that.
Yeah, I understand. Now, the people that you met along the way, do you have any? I guess they were mostly Spanish, or were there other nationalities?
There were certainly mostly Spaniards.
Yeah.
A lot of Spanish people, particularly in the latter part of it. But I did meet other nationalities, and I certainly met some characters. So let me see. So one interesting lady that I met from Colombia just a few days ago had passed through Carrion, I think, where there's an albergue run by an order of nuns. So she had stopped there. She was on her 4th Camino, and the first Camino she had stopped there and felt a deep connection and kept in touch with the nuns, and then went to go through the process of becoming a nun and joining the order. And she went to their house in Madrid and all of that type of stuff. So it was a very interesting story. Then just people from really just all nationalities. I met another gentleman from Amsterdam, and he had like a cart that was attached to his waist.
Yes.
And he was walking from Amsterdam to Lisbon, and he was doing the Camino part way. So he was quite an interesting character as well. And then just, everybody is walking for a reason, and you hear all different types of reasons.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting things through the forum, actually, I was looking to walk at night on the Meseta at one stage. And through that, I got in touch with a very nice albergue owner, Gabriel. And he said something to me that really stuck with me. And, he was asking why I was walking, and he was saying everybody walks for a reason. And he told me that he calls this the Camino of Winners. And he said most people, if they have an issue, they just kind of sit back and stew in it. you know.
Yeah.
But he said people who do the Camino are proactive. They're taking steps to do something and to really make a change. And he said that in his experience, anyone who walks is a winner. And I thought that was very nice.
That's the way. That's
nice
the
thing to say. Yeah. Right.
Now, I know that on the forum and other people I've talked to have said that there's more people sleeping in tents this time of year because people are worried about sleeping inside and all that. Did you find any people with tents, or did you see
very
people?
very few?
Yeah.
So, but there were a few.
Yeah.
Two circumstances come to mind. One albergue we stayed in, we were up in the mountains, and a very, very big thunder and lightning storm came in with very heavy rain, and I had to help a couple of guys take their tents down and get inside. There was another place then. Another place. I came across a pilgrim who was sleeping like in a hammock that was enclosed. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't think, and he was sleeping in the woods. He told me another funny story. So there is a place very early on the walk where you come through a forest, and there were some witches apparently burned in the forest, right? And apparently there's a beast who stalks the forest. So anyhow, I came through with another Irish guy that morning and had some coffee, and there's a mural of Pellegrino with the beast beside it. So anyway, I came across this guy a little later, and he stayed in his hammock in this forest. And he said he started hearing somebody in the forest at like 4 a.m. trudging through the trees, and he said, this was definitely a person. And it was 4 a.m. and he was, maybe 100 meters off of the trail. Yeah. So he said that it was getting closer and closer, so he just let a cough just so that whoever was walking knew.
Yeah.
And then whoever it was stopped, and then there was silence, and then he heard grunting, like, "Rrr, rrr, rrr," and then it went off the opposite direction. But as I said, that's the forest where apparently there's some kind of monster or Bigfoot thing walking around. So funny story. But to answer your question directly, no, generally people were not in tents. The odd one here and there. Even though many of the albergues were closed, I only heard of one instance where people didn't find a bed. And that was an English guy and a Portuguese mother and daughter, and he told me they stood in a graveyard under the awning of a kind of a porch for a church. That's the only time that I came across where there was nowhere to stay, and the albergues are cheap enough, I think. Anyway.
Yeah. Did you find that if you wanted to stay in albergue every day, you could, or did you have to go sometimes at a hotel, or?
Only one time did I have to go to a hotel.
Yeah.
Only one. And I mean, another time I wandered into a small village and nothing seemed open, and I just happened to ask in the cafe where I was eating, and she said, "Oh, hold on," and an albergue owner was there having lunch and said, "Oh, I'll open up for you," and they let me in. I was the only one in there that night.
Oh, that's good.
So, but yeah, I think if you want to walk, you can walk. I think there's much reduced capacity, and there's many fewer albergues, but it's certainly possible.
Yeah. So you didn't book ahead or anything? Just walked in? Yeah.
Yeah, and if I would have had to walk on, I would have walked on. It wouldn't have been a big deal, but that never happened.
Now, what did they tell you? Did they say anything, the albergue owners, of the situation they were in? And
no, they were just all very happy to have some business, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody particularly complained in terms of say what they needed to do to keep the place safe and sanitary. That was all fine. A lot of them did say that from a business perspective, they're having a really tough time.
Yeah.
And so, you can understand that. And I don't know how the ones that are staying closed are surviving, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
But, they're very happy to see business. I think nobody was unhappy to see me anywhere.
That's good.
I never ran into that at all. But yeah, I think people are under pressure, certainly.
That's good. Yeah, well, that's not good, but it's good to hear that at least you could find a place to sleep every day without having to stress about it. Which some people wonder if it's so bad out there that everyone's closed down and you can't find a place to sleep. But it sounds like that was.
It was fine the whole time, and there were some people who were quite pedantic about booking ahead.
Yeah.
But I never found it necessary, and to be honest, I didn't like being that locked in. I kind of like to just go with the wind and see where I land.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never ran into any problems.
That's good. And I think you have good weather as well, didn't you? It was.
Yeah, it was very good. It wasn't too hot. It certainly wasn't cold, and I had a few kind of overcast days that were nicely warm with a bit of a breeze coming through. So I was quite worried. I'm Irish. I was quite worried to getting burnt.
Yeah.
That was fine. I brought rain gear. I only used once, so it didn't particularly rain. Only once or twice. But yeah, for me, it's been perfect.
That's great. So you walked in today. Have you gotten your Compostela yet?
I have, yeah.
How was that experience down at the pilgrim's office? There was not a lot of people, I'm sure.
No, I walked straight in.
Yes,
There was nobody in front of me. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, a little bit of an anticlimax, I think, because it's not really about the destination,
Yeah.
but at the same time, that's the end. So it's funny. Like I've been walking for 5 weeks now, more or less, and it all runs into one. It certainly doesn't feel like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But now for it to be over is very strange.
Yes.
And I think I have some work to do to reflect on what I take away. So yes, it was a little bit strange because getting that, I got 2 pieces of paper actually, was very final. I was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
No, yes, and I talked to many people that walk into Santiago and they walk onto the square and there's a special kind of feeling that kind of builds up. Did you find that as well?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
I did, and I had a Spotify playlist running in the background, which kind of I think added to the emotion, you know. But yeah, it was very emotional walking into the square.
Yeah.
I walked in alone, so you know I saw a couple of groups, you know, small groups, 2 or 3 people, with lots of hugs and that type of thing. For me, like I mean, I picked up some injuries along the way, and so I didn't stick. I'm about a day behind what the recommendation is in the guide. So the people who I started off with, some went ahead, some fell back. So you know, I don't think there's anyone here from that group on the same day.
Yeah, yeah.
So from that perspective, it's a little lonely. So it's nice to see you and see a welcome, happy face, and have a conversation. You know?
Now, sometimes people also sit in the cafes on the streets in Santiago and they see people walking by and they meet people they walk to, you know.
Sure.
So you can sit down
Okay.
someplace, maybe you'll see some people that you know.
Sure, and I'll certainly do that.
Yeah.
Not yet. Some welcome hydration.
Oh, yes, that was good.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I wish we could do this live so I can have people ask questions on the forum while we talk. Because I'm not. Is there anything else that you want to talk about from your walk? Something that kind of stood out? Something that some people you met, some places you saw, some things you saw, some buildings or anything? Something you ate? The food? How was the food?
Yeah, the food was good. I mean, I like my Spanish omelette. You know, I don't particularly think that there was one standout moment or person that made it for me. For me, it's the whole experience. And any one day walking is easy enough. Maybe the first day is difficult, but besides that, it's easy enough. It's the thing is that it's every day. And the wonderful thing is that, you know, I live a fairly complex life, you know, a relatively stressful job and at pressure, and you know, I'm involved in many things. So to be able to just get up and have everything you need on your back, and all that you have to do for the day is walk, was very liberating. And for me, that was really the highlight, and how simple really life can be. I guess that's something else I want to say is just to thank the kind of community on the forum, and particularly Mick. So Mick is my next door neighbour, and Mick has been walking the Camino, you know, for some years, and he's done it many times. So, you know, we'd been in touch before I went, and then you know, he gave me some tips before I left, and I was sending him photos every day and just an update on where I was at, and then he of course posted on the forum, and it really was like base camp. So if I had any, for example, I wanted to do some nighttime walking
Yeah.
on the Meseta, and so he went on the forum, and a lot of people gave a lot of really good advice, and it actually resulted in a very nice place to stay with Rebecca and Paddy, which was incredible to be able to just turn up at somebody's house and be let in and have a bed to stay in. So thank you to them, and I met, as I said, a hospitalario, Gabriel, as well, and had a really very nice conversation with him. So the forum was a great support, and Mick was a great support. Like I said, it was like base camp.
Yeah.
In many ways, I feel that today the Camino is so different. I don't even feel like I did a real one because we've got all this technology.
Yes.
Like the one time I got lost, it was very easy to open Google Maps and
Yes.
no problem.
Yes.
I didn't even. I brought stuff to wash my clothes every day. I never did that. And I was like, look, there's a lavanderia in every single albergue. I just used that.
Yeah.
And I'm very much connected to home, so I could talk to my daughter every day and that type of thing. And then the other thing I realized that someone mentioned to me part way was that, really this is only half a Camino in many ways, because in the old days people had to walk there and then walk back. So I also feel the benefit of that. So, I'll fly out tomorrow, I'll be home and all by lunchtime.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, probably the main thing, question in people's mind is now a good time to do it. I'd say that my answer to that is it depends. I'd say if your health puts you in a category where you might be higher risk, I'd say avoid it at all costs. And I'd say if you're not in that kind of a category, certainly I think anyone that I met would be very happy to see you, so long as you're respectful, follow the rules, wear your mask, use the hand sanitizer, and just treat the place like you'd like it to be treated yourself. So I'd say it's a good time to walk from that perspective, so long as you kind of have common sense. And I'd say that all of the facilities that you need are there. They might be a little bit reduced on maybe what's normally there. For me, I think it was very nice. It was in many ways, a solitary journey. I did meet people along the way, but for the most part, I walked alone.
Yeah.
And that suited me.
Yeah.
So if that suits you, I'd say go for it.
Good. Well, thank you for sitting down and having this chat. And now we'll just enjoy our Aquarius here we're actually sitting at the Parador at the cafe. As you can see, the Parador's over there. You can see, of course, the cathedral behind us. So anyway, have a good trip home, and maybe one day we'll be back.
Maybe so. Thanks, Ivor. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.